Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mubari's podcast. This is Hashmat Mubaris, your host. Today, I'm truly happy, guys, to welcome Shukria Ganji to Mubari's podcast. Shukria is a Canada-based entrepreneur and the co-founder of Oak and Pin Real Estate Group. Her journey begins as an Afghan immigrant who arrived in Canada during 2000. And over the years, she has built a strong, respected career in real estate and business leadership. Dear Shukriya, thank you so much for joining us, and it's a real pleasure to have you on Mubarak's podcast tonight.
Thank you so much for extending an invite. It's an honor to be here. And before we start, actually, I wanted to congratulate you personally on your recent admission to UBC, which is one of our local universities where I live. And
Wow.
it's one of the most highly rated universities, not only just across Canada, but around the globe. So I just wanted to congratulate you personally on that huge milestone.
Thank you so much once again. Honestly, I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time, but by the way, I would like to start from here, there, Shukriya, from your early life and your life as an immigrant to Canada. Moving to a new country as a child shapes the way we see the world. It shapes our mindset, our views to the world. And immigration often comes with, I'm sure you know this better than me, with uncertainties, cultural adjustment, language adjustment, and more difficult than that is starting from zero. And for Afghan families who lived during the first Taliban era, the transition was especially difficult for them. And those early
Mhm.
years often build resilience long before career begins. I would love to hear that you moved to Canada around 26 or 27 years ago and during the first Taliban period. What would you remember about that transition and how did it shape you as a person?
Yeah, so actually that transition the whole process of fleeing Afghanistan happened very quick. So we had I was born in Kabul, and then we had moved to the northern parts in Mazar Sharif for a little bit. And so at that time, the rest of Afghanistan, including the capital, news broke that Taliban were within hours of reaching Mazar Sharif as well. So as soon as we heard that news, we were on a bus, like my family and I, and we were headed towards Pakistan's border. It all happened within an hour or two, so we didn't have time to like pack all our belongings or get rid of our assets. It was just kind of you save yourself and go, right? And our bus was actually one of the last buses that made it to the border and were let inside Pakistan. After entering Pakistan, we heard that the borders were shut down, like they were for months to follow after that. So it was such a blessing that we were able to make it to the border, but at the same time, blessing because we were safe, but it was a curse also knowing that there were so many other people that were trying to leave around the same time and they couldn't have made it. So that my heart still aches today for the people that were trying to leave that couldn't then or even now. And sort of being forced to flee your home country, your ancestral lands is very traumatic as a child. Because you're kind of stepping into the unknown, right? You're stepping into the new culture, new country, usually with empty pockets, right? Starting a new life and just sort of navigating your way through the new culture and language, really.
Yeah. I'm sure, as an immigrant child growing up in Canada, there's a lot to hear from you and there's a lot to learn from that journey. Growing up as an immigrant child means learning to balance two identities at the same time. And I'm sure it's not easy. And there is the pressure of to adapt quickly, succeed in school, a new culture, a new language, a new environment or maybe sometimes helping family financially to move forward. At the same time, there is the challenge of belonging and self-confidence. These years often quietly shape future leaders that we have a lot of example of this. And actually, you are one of them, dear Shukriya. You know, uh, I'm so curious to hear that. What was life like for you growing up in Canada as an immigrant child, especially during your school years, during your, college years?
So growing up in Canada had many challenges as a child. So to be clear, when I arrived in Canada, I didn't speak any English. Like I think I only knew three words. I knew how to say apple, cat, and book, and those are the like my English vocab when I arrived here. And like having that, like having no language skills was obviously very difficult, but also I think that the bigger part is the culture shock, right? The difference in what my family value systems were compared to my peers or classmates, right? So it's completely different. And as a student, I always felt like I was behind, you know? There was a lot of catching up to do compared to my classmates or peers. So I always felt like I was behind. I always had to work harder to sometimes get the same results as my classmates, right? But I had to put in the double, like extra work and extra hours to get the same results. And it was just hard navigating the school system here. It's not the same as what my parents grew up to in Afghanistan, or even my older siblings, right? Because they were a little bit older. And also just navigating a new culture and just the language. I wouldn't say was the easiest, but I was persistent. I wanted to keep pushing harder and harder so that I can hopefully attain or get somewhere one day.
Mhm.
And I think one of the most noticeable differences was really the social life. So my parents were somewhat strict compared to my classmates, right? So there was a lot of social events, school field trips, extracurricular activities that my classmates could take part in, but my parents didn't necessarily agree with it, so they wouldn't let me participate. And, you know, at the time, it was very isolating because obviously these field trips would be opportunities for you to, you know, make friends and get to know people better. Now I look back, I think it was just a way for my parents to protect me when I was younger.
You know, education is often the first space where immigrant children find their confidence, find their path or find their direction. It's also where, they start understanding their strengths and interests. For many, education becomes the foundation for long-term independence. How did your education influence your mindset and direction you have eventually chosen in life as an entrepreneur?
So education taught me persistence, really, the meaning of working hard. Like I didn't excel because um, you know, things were easy. I excelled because I put in the effort and the work. I had to work again harder than most people to usually get the same result. And then early on in life, I learned that in order to close those gaps that were created by circumstance, I needed to be persistent. And you know, school really taught me the importance of self-advocacy. As an immigrant and as a woman, I learned that if I don't speak up, if I don't use my voice, nobody else will do so on my behalf. And this mindset sort of stayed with me into like adulthood and into my leadership role today, where you know, self-advocacy plays a huge, huge important role.
hmm Uh, the first step into professional world are rarely easy. It comes with a lot of challenges, with a lot of, responsibilities, with a lot of difficulties. Many immigrants start without having a good networks or guidance and learn through experience. What were your early professional, experiences and what did they teach you about work, responsibility?
Yeah, of course. So my early professional experiences were in the hospitality industry. So that's working in hotel setting. I learned some of the most important life skills while working in that industry, which was people skills. So in the hospitality industry, you're required to fully show up during every single shift, and you have to be your 100%, you know, because people are relying on you to sort of get the job done and make the client feel at their best. So that was one important life skill, which was people skills. And then in the working in the hospitality industry also taught me the importance of you know, being socially aware of the environment. So and matching energy. You know, if somebody is celebrating an important milestone, you have to match that level of excitement. But if somebody's here because a family member is sick and they're not, you know, they're just here to spend some quality time with a family member, you have to lower your energy and match that level, right? So it kind of helped me read the room better and match my energy according to what others around me are feeling. And sort of coming from a refugee background, I never looked at these roles as just work. They were opportunities for me to learn and absorb as much as I can. And the people skills that I developed in the hospitality industry are instrumental to what I do today.
Mm-hmm. To the best of my knowledge there, as far as I have read and as far as I have heard about the entrepreneurship and about the real estate is a relationship driven and highly competitive industry. And entering this field requires confidence and courage. And especially if you're a woman in this competitive business, it requires a lot of courage and confidence. Many successful professionals, discover real estate through, experience. I'm sure it's not something that we are planning it, ahead. How did you first get into real estate and what attracted you to this industry?
So real estate is really the intersection of people and looking for stability. And as a child who was a refugee and we, had to flee one country, our homeland, and go to another country and then finally to Canada, I kind of yearned that sense of having a home, something that where you can establish your roots, Like for example, when I was growing up, all my classmates or peers had lifelong friendships, like people that they met in kindergarten or like grade one, grade two, or grade three. I didn't have that because my friends in grade one were in Afghanistan and I never saw them again, right? So I always yearned that sense of having deep roots in a community where you call home. So I kind of wanted to, the reason why I wanted to pursue business in real estate was because I wanted to play a role in helping maybe people like myself establish their roots in a community here, so where their children and future generations feel at home.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
And I was, sorry, go ahead.
mm-hmm. Just continue.
Just and then the entrepreneurial nature of this business, to be able to directly impact somebody's decision. And usually, like I'm not sure if your audience knows, but Vancouver, where I live, Vancouver is one of the most expensive cities, and not only just in Canada, but in the whole North America. We have beautiful mountains. We have the Pacific Ocean. We have one of the most desired temperatures here where it doesn't get too hot or too cold, right? Compared to the rest of the Canada. But all that comes with a higher price tag, right? Because most of Canadians like our city and want to live here. And not just Canadians, actually. We have a lot of international investors that look forward to either retiring here or having an investment property here. So that naturally brings up the land values, right? So in order to like play a small part in helping families establish their roots here, while as competitive it can get with other local buyers or national investors, really, really means a lot to me. And I'm happy to be doing this.
Mm-hmm. It's also so interesting for us and for our audience to hear that as a real estate advisor and sales manager, how did you grow into leadership and what did that transition, teach you?
Yeah, so leadership wasn't really something that I intentionally pursued ever, really. It was just something I grew into, and people naturally looked up to me for guidance and mentorship. So the transition that has taught me is that leadership isn't really about authority; it's more so about service and giving back. So I consider myself uh, I consider myself very lucky to be able to mentor and see potential in others before they even realize themselves.
Mm-hmm. As I have read your background, you have co-founded the Oak and Pain Real Estate Group. I hope that I pronounced it correctly. Finding a company like this is a major step. It requires, vision, trust, confidence, and courage. For immigrant entrepreneurs, it also represents stability and ownership. Oak and Pain, I'm sure that it reflects not just, business success, but years of experience, years of learning, and years of dedication. Uh, I'm also curious to hear about that. What motivated you to co-found the Oak and Pain Real Estate Group, and what values guide the business today?
Yeah, so we founded Oak Pine Real Estate Group out of desire to build something meaningful, out of something that was rooted in our community, and collaborating within other members of our community and having this really long-term vision of being in the business for years to come, right? We wanted to create a space where people felt like valued and empowered to not just grow professionally, but personally as well, right? Like I think family milestones we celebrate, any other personal milestones we emphasize on celebrating those alongside professional milestones. And the values that really guide us as a team, as a Oak and Pine real estate team, is really giving back to the community. This is a big pillar of our team, and the reason we feel so so keen on giving back is because we've noticed that a lot of businesses or Afghan-owned businesses are not really involved in our community, right? As soon as somebody sort of becomes successful or is doing well, they kind of step away and are not involved. But, if you really do your research and look back, the foundation of any business or small business, the success is rooted in the community, right? So if you're giving back to the community, you're helping the community grow, and in return, the community helps you grow, right?
Mhm.
And in one way we found that we can give back is through arts and culture, and we've been over the years we've sponsored numerous concerts or cultural events like Shabi Yaldo because we feel like there's a huge responsibility to sort of preserve our arts and culture, and it's the only way that really gives us as African Canadians an identity to hang on to so desperately. And hopefully, the hope is that the generation that's living here in Canada today becomes familiar with the music, starts falling in love with the music and arts, and hopefully they can pass that on to their next generation of African Canadians that will be born and raised in Canada.
Wow. Being an Afghan woman in business carries both pride and responsibility. In today's context, Afghan-owned businesses represent resilience and possibility. Success becomes, more than personal. It becomes symbolic for others, those who are watching you guys from Afghanistan, from around the globe. As last part of our meaningful conversation, I would like to ask that how does your Afghan identity influence your work, your leadership, and the responsibility you feel today?
I mean, my Afghan identity is crucial to who I am today. It influences how I lead with empathy and resilience. And as a immigrant, as a woman coming from a group that's been persecuted for years, I feel a strong sense of duty to create spaces for people to feel seen and to be heard. And hopefully, I'm kind of creating a path for other women, young girls, to look out that they can look up to and pursue either real estate or entrepreneurship as a career.
Dear Genji, thank you once again for joining us and for giving the time and for this meaningful conversation. Again, if there is anything that I have missed or if there's any message that you have for your sisters inside and outside Afghanistan, Mike is yours to conceal it.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. My hope is that all the African girls, no matter where they're in the world, either inside Afghanistan or outside, all their dreams and aspirations come true.